Alright, how you doing today? Welcome back to the studio. I thought today we'd paint an old military airplane. I like these old things, they're super cool. I think this one is a Corsair Navy airplane. I don't know, I saw these things when I was growing up and I've always thought these were super cool airplanes. So kind of thought it'd be fun to give it a shot, see what we can come up with. So I've kind of used it as a template, and I've come up with my drawing. It looks similar to that. We're just gonna give it a little color, make it look real nice. We'll put a little background on it. It'll be fantastic. So this picture is going to be mostly blue. I'm going to use a lot of French ultramarine and phthalo blue, and I've actually got a little on a. Here's my one palette. You can see in the picture I've actually got a second palette full of paint over here, but that's got cerulean blue on it. So between these three, that's going to be the basic color of our airplane. And let's just get to it. So I'm just going to start coloring in the body of the plane here. And every time I go, every stroke I make, I just want to vary my color a little bit. I'm going to think about my painting, and I'm going to go right over that. What should be a little darker due to shadow, what should be a little bit lighter because of a highlight. And as I paint, I'm just going to kind of try to remember that and give a little extra color to some spots and a little less color to others, and by the time we're done, the whole plane is going to look real nice. I'm just going to turn this ever so slightly. I just want to make sure I've got a small demarcation between the wing and the airplane. It doesn't need to be big, just ever so slightly, because they are two slightly different pieces of metal. We don't want to make them seem too much the same. Okay, right down here, I'm just going to do this as we go along. I'm going to add a little bit of extra. Ooh, get right on that line. A little bit of extra. Look at that, that's pretty nice. Ultramarine over there, and I'm going to counterbalance that on this side. Maybe back up here a little bit with a little bit of this cerulean blue. I'm going to tap off my brush. And you know what? Right in the middle, I'm going to put a little bit of this extra phthalo. I want it to look like right here is an edge that's just kind of shining real brightly on this plane. And I don't want it to be so overtly stated that you have to say, well, right there is the edge. I just want your brain, your mind, to be able to pick that up when you see it, that, oh, that's where the edge is, that's where it's really bright. There we go, that looks like a good wing to me. Plus I want to keep that edge, this edge down here, a little bit dark, so when we go ahead and put in our sky, we'll be able to really see. Let's see, I'm going to get this, I'm going to mix a little bit of dark in here. This is just Payne's Gray in here. I'm just going to darken it up a little bit because I know that I'm going to be painting right now kind of in the belly of the airplane. Just so I'm going to keep that a little darker, and then as I work my way up, we'll see that the paints are going to lighten. I'm not going to turn it to get paint right around the star here, or ringlets, not ringlets, or epithets. What are these things on the side of the star? Somebody will know. Somebody will send me an email and tell me what they are. I'm not exactly sure. That's okay. It doesn't matter. We're going to paint those in there in a little bit. And I'm putting on a little bit of color here, fairly strong. That's okay. I don't mind. It's a little strong. I'm going to end up pulling a lot of it out. And that's going to go all the way. Look, I'm using a lot of that. It's going way up here. I'm going to mix just a little bit of this in with it. Way up at the top. We're going to have this nice gradual gradation of blue all the way from the top all the way to the bottom. That's nice. I'm going to come back and put a little, I don't know what color this is exactly, I just kind of dipped it in and mixed it a little bit. I guess it doesn't matter if it mixes on the paper or on the palette, and in some instances. I like to get a general color on the palette, and then as you see, when I get it on the paper, I throw in a little couple other colors, just dab in with it and let the paint do what it wants to do. I don't want to make it do what it doesn't want to do. I want it to figure itself out. Show me what the paint can do rather than me try to force that paint to do something, because when I try to force it, I've found out I don't do a good job. So if I can let that paint just do what it wants to do there, I think I'm a lot better off. I'm going to come back and real quickly going to put in this back wing back here. I don't want to get too far away from this. I don't want it to, and a little bit of that back portion. I've got a little bit of the wing over here too. I want to make it a little different. I'm going to put a little phthalo on there. I'm just going to leave that little bit of space. And now I'm just going to move forward. Let's add a little bit of Payne's gray in the bottom of it. Darken it up down there a little bit. Just kind of run that around. And you see, when we did this, I had a little bit of a hard edge right here. We just went over it, and that kind of took care of itself. We went over it with wet paint, and it just fills itself in. No big deal. Like I said, the paint knows what it's doing. We just have to not stop it from doing it. We're just going to fill in some color. Still just throwing it on here. Not worrying too much about it. But we do want to let it mix a little bit. We don't want to have just one static color. That's not very exciting. And when you look at it, when it's just one color, it just doesn't look all that great. Now you can look at this and you can go, well, our color's not anywhere close to that. Let's see if I can get it in the picture. Our color's nowhere close to that, and that's fine. But you see, this is a blue-gray plane, and it's got, you could paint here and paint several coats here of the same color and maybe get it to be just as dark, but I don't know. Something about doing it this way where you let the paint figure out its own color that it wants to do. Just makes it nicer, and it comes together real nice. You don't even think about not having the right colors on there. It just turns out to be right. And like I said, the beauty of it is we don't end up doing it. The paint does it all. Paint just does what it wants to do. Yeah, let's get a little bit. There we go. That of course is the back wing, the wing we don't see. I need to get a little thinner brush. I'm going to swap out. Just dab that wet just a little bit, and I'm going to put in this tiny little blue stripe back there. Something like that. Alright. Okay, and now I've got to do something about the engine cowl here. Whoa, that's awfully dark. So Payne's Gray is a pretty good color for something like that, but we can't leave it like that. I'm going to use a little bit of this Viridian in this Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray is already a little greenish anyways. And we're gonna put it on here. And that'll look like a metal color, but it'll be dark. And it'll fade right in, look like it's back inside that just ever so slightly. Now let's see if I just can make it circular right around there. Beautiful. There we go. Now what's going on outside? I don't know. I can hear some music outside. Maybe the neighbors are having a party or something. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I hope you can't. I'm not paying royalties on anybody else's music. I'm not really paying any on my own, since I don't use any. And I like to paint these nose cones a nice bright yellow color. I think this is over here probably a Hansa yellow or something like that. Paint. It's going to turn out to be a nice yellow here. And I'm just going to give it just a little bit of ochre on the bottom, which will give it just enough difference. You can't see too much about it, but you'll know when you look at it later. It'll look just like there's a shadow there. Alright, so I'm going to come back and I want to paint these letters. I don't want them to be white, but I don't want them to be not white. I don't know if that makes sense. I just want to knock a little bit of that brightness off of them, really, is all I want to do. Something like that. I totally still want them to be bright-ish, but not just, that's quite a little too stark there, I think. And I need a nice red color in the, right in here. That looks good. I think it goes white, red, white, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. And as soon as that dries up a little bit, I'm going to go back and put a little bit of that dulling color on that other. I'm going to mix up a little bit of, there we go, get a nice metallic color. So I'm just going to take that Payne's Gray and I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow in there along with a little bit of blue, and you'll see it's going to come out in, oh, it might be a little too yellow. That's okay. Should thin that out a little bit more. Anyway, that's going to come out and look like a nice base metal. Not shiny like a stainless or anything, but it's going to be just good enough for what we need. Now our pilot sitting in the cockpit here has got to be protected. He's got some metal that comes around him, something like that. Right, I think that's about how it goes on this one. And I put him in there. I don't know what color helmet he's probably going to have, but I'm going to give him a green helmet. I'm going to darken this up. A little blue and a little Payne's Gray. That area right behind him, that seat right behind him, is probably blue. That's my guess anyways. I'll make his seat belt there a little bit of brown. Just going to give him a little bit of color in his face. And he can be wearing a uniform right there. We don't need to be perfect with that. There, that's him. Got a little bit of run in there. We'll just tap that off. I think our red has dried enough. We're just going to drop on a little color here. Now, I need to get a bigger brush. Let's see. Will this work for me? What do I have? Any old couple of brushes here that I want to use? This one will work. Winsor & Newton. It'll be nice and big without being too big. I'm actually going to clean this color off of here and start fresh. I want clean colors on my sky. I think the last video I did, I kind of left you guys holding the bag a little bit, and I cheated and just said, well, I think you all can finish the sky on your own. Well, that's not always the nicest thing to do, so I'm going to paint the sky today. I don't like to paint ultramarine sky, but this phthalo blue does make a pretty nice sky. So I'm going to do a sky that is phthalo blue and a little bit of the cerulean blue. I'm going to make this nice and soupy. And what I like to do is I start in the least spot. I'm going to start way back here and go forward and around. And in that way, I'm going to hope that the only spot that gets a hard edge on it is that one right there. And I'm just going to I'm going to drop this on, but I'm not going to worry if there's a little edge there or if there's not an edge there. I'm going to mix in a little bit of the ultramarine. I think you mix in just a slight amount of that, and it will make it real nice. You'll be able to, it'll give some, just like in the body of the airplane, it'll give some added depth. It'll give some motion, if you want to say, to the sky. You may not always pick it up. You may look at it and go, oh, it's just a blue sky, but your brain will somehow, in the midst of all that, look at that blue sky and pick up the little bits of color there. I don't know how it does it. The brain is a pretty good thing. Alright, let's see. Just get that laid down in here. I'm going to throw a little bit of this. Maybe whoa, that's too much color for me. There we go. I'm going to drop in some larger bits of cerulean in there. That's going to look nice. Alright. I'm going to turn, I'm going to come down the side. I'm going to kind of I like to keep this paper as perpendicular to me as I can. I forgot to paint just a little bit inside that canopy there. We don't need a lot in there, just an indication that there's some canopy there. Just change the color ever so slightly. Give the indication that the canopy is there and there's something around that guy. He's not just kind of out on his own. Alright. I guess this is a lot more blue than I ever thought there was going to be in here. When I started this, I went, oh, this would be a great airplane to paint. It's just going to look nice. It'll be in the sky, and now that I look at it, it's blue. There's a lot of blue here. That's okay. We're not going to sweat it. This is a fun picture. It's a nice picture. It's going to be real good. And the fact that it has a lot of blue isn't going to bother me one iota. Shouldn't bother you at all. In fact, I'll bet you when you look at it later, after you're done painting yours, you don't even think about it just being all blue. You just say, oh, that's an airplane out in the sky. Alright, so what else can we do? I need to wait for this to dry, the sky now to dry, before I can drop in just some basic indications of the propeller. But what we can do is we can grab some color and we can drop in the indication of some panels here. Like, I know that somewhere back here, I'm just going to try and keep my hand off of it. This goes around. I don't want to... There we go. I'm just going to give the indication that that kind of goes around ever so slightly. Maybe a little bit back here. I know that on the tail there's a little... Ooh, should be a little indication where it turns. I'm just going to drop in a few little details here and there with this. I'm going to put just a little bit of, take a little bit of this. I'm going to make just a little shadow underneath there. In fact, I'm going to get a slightly larger brush to pull that out because I want people to be able to see that that goes underneath that tail fin and it gets just a little bit darker in there. Pull that little tiny brush back out again. Yeah, this is a little brush, but man, you can load up a lot of color on there. I'm just going to drop a little bit in there. Alright, where else do we have a panel? I don't know. Typically there's something back behind the driver back here, or the driver. Yeah, back behind the driver. Back behind the pilot, I suppose, is what we're talking about. I'm going to put a few lines on here. And oh, I forgot, I do know there's a little cowl right here. I drop that on. And that is, I'm assuming, where a machine gun is housed. I don't really know. And I think that looks a bit better. I'm going to give him a little bit darker something here on his cowl. I don't know how my time is. I hope I didn't run too much over. I try to keep everything 15 to 20 minutes, somewhere in there. I think this one, I have a feeling this one's starting to run a little bit long. Going to put a couple indications in here. We don't need a lot. Oh, that really sets it off. That looks a lot better. Maybe I'll give him just a little bit of something on his hat here. There we go. Something to set him off just a little bit too. And let me feel just a little too damp. But I can start mixing my color, I guess. I'm going to use almost all Payne's Gray for this. I want this really soupy. That's too strong, if you can see that. And all I'm going to do, this is better. All I'm going to do is I'm going to be real brave. Oh man, that's close. That's close to being too wet. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to be quite as brave quite yet. I'm going to give me a little bit of phthalo. I just want to darken this down. I just want to make sure that underneath, I know I shouldn't do this because I'm going to have to put a propeller blade right over top of that. And it's going to make it tough to do, but I just want to make sure that the bottom of this looks anchored, like it's down there. I think that's a little bit better. I don't want it to look I don't want it to look like it's just all one color, just kind of hanging out. I want to make this darker down here. Where's my phthalo blue? That'll help me out. And I can do that now that this paint has started to dry a little bit. And I can go back real quick. I gotta do it pretty quickly. Just tap and bring that out. I don't want that to be I definitely don't want that to be a hard edge. So I'll put it on and I'm going to take most of it off of there. I don't know if you can see it. It does. It looks like it curls under there now. Alright, I'm going to try to put a propeller. Oh, that does look a lot better. You know what? I'm going to put a little bit right up at the top too. And in doing stuff that's round, you don't think about it. You look at it and your brain interprets things one way, but we actually have a top shadow and we have a bottom shadow. So there's a really dark line right up at the top of things, as well as on the bottom. If you don't get the one on the top, sometimes the one on the bottom doesn't look exactly right. Alright, so I'm gonna be brave. This is basically gonna be a circle. Something like this. I want this real runny. And I just want to put some of this on here. I don't need to put the whole thing. I don't need to put the whole propeller. It doesn't need to be perfect. We just need to color some of this so that when you look at it, your eye goes, oh, there's a propeller there, and it's turning super fast. So we don't need to do much. We just need to do a little bit. And I think this was a little too wet when I put it on there, but you can kind of see it. I should go right over that body too. I should not be afraid. I'm going to put a little bit here. Actually, it's not going to show up. It's so light. Okay, there we are. Here's our Navy Corsair, done in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know, whatever it is. It's flying through the sky. It looks great. If you liked the video, give me a like down at the bottom of the screen. If you like it, why don't you give me a subscription? And I hope to see you back again and painting again. All right, thank you.